This video was sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Do you ever get the feeling that there are eyes all around you? Hungry ears at every turn? Treacherous little fingers that prod and paw and nab little bits of your world whenever you're not looking? Then you need a VPN. Surfshark VPN gives you the freedom to surf the web without worrying that websites are mining data from you and selling it off. Take that, the man! And on top of that, it also helps you get around region-locked content. Traveling abroad and can't access your favorite shows on Netflix? Well, now you can. If you think this level of online privacy, safety, and freedom sound good, have I got a deal for you. Head to surfshark.deals/Arlo and enter the promo code ARLO to get a whopping 85% off your subscription and 3 months totally free. Thanks once again to Surfshark VPN, and on with the show. Mark. Hello, my fellow people who are also probably too old to care so much about a game series aimed at children. As you might have noticed, Nintendo recently announced a brand new Paper Mario game. Personally, I remained cool and collected as ever. Wow, what? Sorry. But the suddenness of the announcement combined with the apparent departure from much of the Sticker Star Color Splash formula turned a few heads, to put it lightly. And now everyone is poring over every little image and gameplay clip they can get their hands on from either of the two trailers or any country's website to try and figure out exactly what Paper Mario Origami King is going to be like. And while the game does look very promising, in all honesty, it still looks to be a far cry from the original games. Indeed, this seems to be a combination of a fourth major style for the series and a continuation of the more paper-focused third style established in Sticker Star and Color Splash. So something new in a sense, while still sticking with a decent amount of the old. We will of course be discussing my claim that this is still not the Paper Mario game a lot of us are looking for very soon, but for the sake of establishing the topic in the intro, let's assume that I'm right. Let's assume that this game is still very, very different from the first two games. I've claimed many times by now that I've given up actively hoping for what I would consider a return to form for Paper Mario, though considering the massive backlash to Color Splash and the fact that Nintendo has been undergoing some massive internal changes over the last few years, I've maintained that there has been at least one teeny tiny sliver of hope left inside me. I did an entire video on this, in fact. Nintendo has made many decisions in recent times that I once would have thought impossible. Honestly, I could never be completely certain what the chances were of getting another traditional Paper Mario until Nintendo gave us a title after Color Splash. If they had really been paying attention to that backlash and had really been changing as a company, we couldn't possibly know how any of that would affect the series until we saw some evidence with our very own eyes. Well, that evidence has finally come, and today I'm here to talk about what Origami King might mean for the series. Is there still any hope left that the Paper Mario I once loved might return? Or is this the final nail in the coffin, as it were? Well, now that the topic has been thoroughly established, let's get discussionizing. Before we do anything, a few things we gotta get out of the way. First, obviously, I can't speak for every single person. When I make generalizations about what we want, I'm speaking for like-minded individuals that I have personally observed to make up the majority of Paper Mario fans. If you don't fit these generalizations, that's fine. I'm not talking about you. Second, to anyone coming here just to say, it's called Paper Mario. What do you expect? Why shouldn't it have paper gimmicks? I invite you to watch some of my other content on the matter, or to simply play the first few games. But the gist is that the series first used a paper-like style because the games were imitating storybooks. It wasn't about being made from paper, it was about that story. Thousand Year Door did have a couple silly little paper gimmicks, but the entire game didn't hinge around them. Imagine playing a wonderful story game that just happens to have a watercolor style. Then, the sequel ditches the story and much of what you loved about the first game and makes the whole entire experience about watercolor. Feels like it kind of misses the point, doesn't it? And finally, it is important for me to back up my assertion that Origami King is not the Paper Mario game I'm looking for, because this is the kind of point that some people will try to use to discredit the entire argument. My career literally began with criticizing Color Splash's reveal, so believe me when I say that the "you can't know for sure until you play it" argument is a very familiar one to me. When it comes to quality, this argument can often be true. I won't know how good Origami King is until I play play it, and I must establish very early in the video and very clearly that it very well may end up being a terrific game. If you've watched my videos on Color Splash, you'll know that while I did lament the continued departure from the original style, I also felt that it had a lot going for it. The entire problem didn't lie with it simply being different, as many people try to claim when backlashing to the backlash. I felt that it had some serious game design issues, primarily a convoluted battle system, nearly non-existent difficulty, and enemy encounters that only got in the way and meant nothing. As such, I truly and honestly believe that if Origami King avoids some of the same pitfalls, it could end up being a gem on the Switch. As I said, both trailers have shown a lot of promise. The first one established a comedically dark tone that we have yet to see in modern Paper Mario. We've seen some more interesting characters than we got to see in Sticker Star or Color Splash, and that they can actually function in battle in some way. There's a new battle system that has the potential to offer some great strategic fun, rather than simply being a worse version of what we had before. We even get to see Mario roaming around in some big open areas, which is especially surprising to see in a Paper Mario game. Nope, I will not tell you that Origami King is going to be another disaster. It could end up being great, and honestly, I am quite excited to play it. But, at the risk of sounding entitled or whatever, I know it's not the Paper Mario game I'm looking for. Some people will tell you not to judge a book by its cover, or indeed a game by its trailer, but I think that's a little silly. And believe me, this is a discussion I've been meaning to make an entire video on for a long time. Like I said, sometimes it's harder to judge the overall quality of a game by a trailer. Sometimes games end up being better or worse than we expect. But I firmly believe that there is a lot you can indeed learn from a trailer when it comes to things like style and gameplay and features. I'm looking at the Origami King trailers and I'm just not seeing most of the stuff I loved about the first two Paper Mario games. I'm seeing some slightly more unique characters than in other recent titles, but I'm not seeing any truly unique ones, nor am I seeing anything other than basic Mushroom Kingdom enemies. I'm seeing that some characters can indeed follow Mario into battle, but I'm not seeing those characters standing next to him 100% of the time and supplementing his attacks and all of the moment-to-moment gameplay. I'm seeing a battle system that certainly looks way more interesting than Color Splash's, but I'm not seeing the one that I originally fell in love with. I'm seeing some semi-interesting locales, but not anything particularly strange within the world of Mario. I'm even seeing a system resembling the badge system in these images, and yet again, instead of a huge library of badges to choose from and strategically equip based on how many badge points you've earned, this seems to be a much simpler and less substantial version. Still absolutely appreciated, don't get me wrong, but it is a simple fact that these are still two very different things. Sorry for reiterating so much, but it's just so important that you know this has nothing to do with the game's overall quality. It could be perfectly great in its own way. You may end up playing it and liking it even more than the original games. Other people may even agree with you, and this could be a fresh new start for the series. I'm just trying to say that it is different. No, I do not need to play the game to know for sure that it's not like the originals. Despite people telling me that I needed to play it before I could tell for sure, I knew that Color Splash was a continuation of Sticker Star based on the trailer, and I was completely right. You can tell these kinds of things from trailers. And while I personally feel that this new style is less good than the original despite its strengths, simply for the sake of discussion, let's move forward under the assumption that it's just as good. Let's move through the rest of this video assuming that Paper Mario Origami King will be just as good as Thousand Year Door, only in its own different way. That way, no one can say that I'm simply complaining baselessly or trying to trash talk the game. With all that out of the way, we come to the real question. What are the odds that we will ever see a return to the original style? Has Origami King affected those odds? If you look at it with some optimism, it's easy to see that the series has been drifting closer and closer to the original style in some ways. We started with Sticker Star, which was stripped down and largely devoid of any real unique personality. No story to speak of, just a handful of basic characters, and nary a shred of content that wasn't pulled from the first few Mario games. But then Color Splash gave us a more involved plot and a lot more creativity in terms of design and environments. And now Origami King seems to have an even more interesting story and even more unique-ish and partner-like characters. There are upgrades similar to badges. It's even getting rid of the system of disposable attacks that brought the previous games down so much. Even just that one thing alone might be enough to pull this series out of the dark pit it is sunk into. Personally though, when it comes to the question of whether or not Paper Mario will ever truly return, I think the answer is no. Certain elements of the games have been drifting toward the goal for sure, but then other elements have continued to change or stubbornly remain the same. Origami King especially seems to be taking the series in yet another new direction while doubling down on some of the elements we've been complaining about this whole time. The combat system looks to be improved over Color Splash, but there's no denying that it's an even greater departure from the original style of combat. The characters look more interesting, but they still follow the same rules of only pulling from the first few Mario games. Things are no longer used as puzzling tools, but now the bosses themselves are things? Sometimes it's only a half step forward, or it's one step forward and 2 steps back. More than ever, this seems to be an absolute refusal to go back to the original style. It seems like they're willing to make these little nods to classic Paper Mario concepts, but not embrace them fully. And please forgive me if this next part seems overly pessimistic. Many people are seeing Origami King as a ray of hope for the series. And when it comes to the hope that the series can be good again, I am right there with them. Origami King makes me feel like Paper Mario is about to regain some relevance. But when it comes to my own personal hope that the series will return to the original style, you may be surprised to know that I actually have less hope now than I did after Color Splash. Might seem weird considering the game looks like it's being improved in every possible way, but bear with me. See, Color Splash was a sequel to Sticker Star, but there's always been this idea that maybe the team got started on Color Splash before they were able to really understand the problems with Sticker Star, so they were sort of locked into using the style. They moved forward doing what they had to do, but they also threw in all these little improvements here and there, almost as though they were trying to throw fans of the originals a few bones. Even though I wasn't getting my hopes up, there was still that tiny chance that our message got through to them loud and clear. We didn't want disposable attacks, we didn't want bare bones stories, and most of us didn't care about paper gimmicks. Maybe they tried their best to improve Color Splash with what little time they had, and later would come the real Paper Mario we've been waiting for. Because, as I've talked about so many times by now, the backlash to Color Splash was massive. I love saying that, backlash to Color Splash. It's just fun. Backlash to Color Splash, backlash. Okay. Anyway, if ever there was a fan outcry that Nintendo was going to hear, it was that one. And that means that if ever there was a chance to show their fans that they were listening, it was with the title that came after Color Splash. It was the title that was going to be built from the ground up in the aftermath of that backlash. And yet, here we are. Here we are with yet another title that fails to bring us back to the original style. They had all the feedback they needed. They had a clean slate. They had the perfect chance to bring Paper Mario back to its roots, and they elected not to use that chance. To me, this means that even if they did hear what we had to say about Color Splash and what we really wanted from the series, there are only 2 possible outcomes. 1, they didn't really understand what we wanted. They picked up on a few things here and there, like us generally hating the disposable attacks and wanting characters that work more closely with Mario, but didn't actually get the entirety of what we're looking for. 2, the most disturbing possibility, they know exactly what we want, and they simply don't care. We have heard your cries. We saw the backlash. We know that very few of you care about paper gimmicks. We know that you want an RPG with a rich story and unique races and environments. We know that you dearly miss having partners to fight alongside strategically. We know that out of all the fans this series has garnered, many, if not most of them, are adults. We know that the last time we used the new style, it was a horrible financial failure, and there are literally millions of people screaming and begging for a return to the original style. And we just do not give one single solitary Tanuki's Patoot. To me, it looks like they're digging in their heels harder than ever. They're telling us that they're willing to swerve a little here and there, more or less in the same-ish direction as the originals, but not straight toward them. never straight toward them. This is a one-way train, it don't go back. And yeah, that's pretty frustrating. Nintendo is allowed to make any artistic decision they want. That's the nature of games. And I will be very pleased if Origami King ends up being great in its own way. But even at its very best, I don't think I'll end up liking it as much as the originals. And plenty of people will take that last statement and use it to accuse me of refusing to take off my nostalgia goggles and clinging too hard to the past and disliking new stuff just because it's new and being afraid of change, etc. But let's do a little thought experiment. Imagine your very favorite food. Why is it your favorite? No, I don't mean what do you like about it specifically. You like that food the most because it tastes the best to you. If you start replacing bits of that food with other foods, changing stuff here and there, soon you're gonna be left with something that is no longer your favorite food. Maybe it's still good in its own way, maybe even great, but not your favorite anymore. In fact, maybe it's still similar enough that no matter how good it is, you just keep wishing it were the old way that you loved so much. So what about some of your favorite game series? You probably like them because they just happen to be the most fun to you. They fit your personal tastes. Same with me. I've got a list of my absolute favorites, and if you take any one of those series and start making drastic changes to the formula, removing elements that I loved wholesale and just turning it into something different, you might be left with a series that is good in its own way. Maybe someone else will like it a lot more now. But even if I still think it's fun, it'll probably stop being my favorite. It's just how tastes work. That's okay. It's not nostalgia or clinging to the past or anything like that. The Paper Mario series once gave me a specific kind of experience, and it doesn't anymore. And that's a bummer. I guess my alternate title for this video could be, It's okay to be disappointed about Origami King even if it looks good. It's okay to still wish for a return to the original style after all these long years, because I know I'm gonna keep wishing. Even if I feel like that last little ember of hope has finally been snuffed out, the desire will always be there. Even when Paper Mario Cut Stars is revealed 4 years from now, and Paper Mario Cran Attack 8 years from now, and Paper Mario Paperclip Paradigm 28 years from now, I'll still dream about the old games, even if just quietly to myself. And even if I can't play them, because even in the year 2048, the current Nintendo console still won't let us play N64 or GameCube games. I know I've spent much of this video warding off potential critics, and I know that despite all that, there are still going to be some nasty accusations thrown at me, but I'm alright with that. I think Origami King has the potential to be very good, and I want to play it, but I am also disappointed that my last sliver of hope for a 1,000-Year Door sequel is gone. And that's okay. As long as you're not mean about it, it's okay for you to be disappointed too. It's not entitlement to fall in love with a product, then find yourself disappointed when a company stops producing that product. And I'll admit, all of this might have upset me more under different circumstances, but you know what makes it all feel a lot better? You know what makes it that much easier to handle? We've got Bug Fables now. Sweet, sweet, beautiful Bug Fables. I started playing the game literally the same day the Origami King trailer dropped. How funny is that? Bug Fables is the Paper Mario game I've been wanting, just with bugs instead of Mario. Go play it now. Well, that's that. No, I don't think the Paper Mario we once knew will ever come back. But I also didn't think Sandbox Mario would ever come back, so hey, maybe I'm wrong. I'm wrong all the time. Being wrong is like my favorite. But let me know what you think about all this down in the comments. Do you agree that this is probably the end of the line? Or is there still some hope? Or does Origami King look good enough that you don't really care either way? Whatever the case, thank you for watching, and remember, play Bug Fables. Like seriously, just go play Bug Fables. It's Paper Mario with bugs, and it's super duper good. Stop not playing it, and go play it. Yeah, go. I can wait.